Good afternoon, everybody, and happy STEM Week. My name is Sam Fonseca, and I'm the Program and Data Manager here at the Cape and Islands Workforce Board. The CIWB is so excited to be kicking off STEM Week with Amanda Hough in Mashpee-Middle High School. The CIWB is proud to sponsor this event, along with a variety of other STEM activities, events, and education across the region. Events such as Residential Construction Career Day, the Cape Cod Mini Maker Fair, and Artworks promote the importance of STEM education. Through the Connecting Activities Initiative, the CIWB can promote and sponsor the VEX robotic event at the Cape Cod Mini Maker Fair. Across the region, STEM initiatives are encouraging the participation of women and underrepresented populations. STEM activities and STEM education across the region are increasing the interest in a wide range of exciting careers here on Cape Cod and across the Commonwealth. The CIWB is hosting a variety of events this week, and we hope that you and your students will have the opportunity to engage in some, if not all. So today, it is my pleasure to introduce Amanda Hough. She's the Technology and Engineering Teacher and Robotics Coach at Mashpee-Middle High School. And with that, I'm going to kick it off to her and her students and their team. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Welcome everyone to our first virtual robotics meeting. We want to thank the Mass Hire Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board for sponsoring this and collaborating with us. They are a true industry partner. Every time we have any event, they're always there to support us, and we're really appreciative of that. We'd also like to thank Mashpee Public Schools and Superintendent Patty DeBoer, who's joining us today, for all of her support. We wouldn't be where we are without her support and the support of Mashpee Public Schools. More than anything, I don't want this to be about me. I want to introduce you to 4 of our seniors who we are super proud of, and I am super sad to see leave this year and graduate. They are the heart of our team. So we have Jamie Hughes, Katrina Mayen, Ethan Liu, and Sean Ware. They are all students who have competed for the last approximate 6.5 to 7 years in robotics and have all gone to Worlds in Texas last year. They really are hoping to go again this year, and they're here to answer your questions. If you have students with you, if it's just coaches and teachers, that's fine too. We would really like to see that Mashpee Public Schools is really lucky to have a 7 through 12 VEX robotics team here. We have also been able to vertically align with our 5th and 6th graders through VEX IQ, and our goal is to eventually be K to 12 with VEX Go in our youngest grades. We started the team 8 years ago with literally 1 student and 1 teacher who had no experience in robotics or in coaching a team when it came to robotics. It's doable. Anybody is able to do this. It's a huge time commitment, I will say that, but it is probably the best part of my day and the best part of my year is to spend it with kids who are truly passionate about what they're doing. It's totally student driven. On the days when you're like, why am I getting up at 5 a.m. to go to a tournament? By 1 o'clock when they're in elimination rounds and they're so excited, you forget about how tired you were. I'd love to open it up to questions in a few minutes, but I'd also like to maybe hear from the students for a few minutes, let them show you their robots. What you see behind you is we're really fortunate in Mashpee that we actually have the game ring set up every single day, 180 days a year in our school. So our kids have the opportunity to practice, test, play, compete here in our school. And that was like a game changer for us when we were able to put the ring in our classroom and allow them that opportunity to practice after school and before school. We currently have practice, if you see this robot going across the floor here, maybe. We currently practice on Tuesday mornings for about 45 to 50 minutes. We have an after school program for 2 hours every Tuesday. And we are fortunate enough to allow our students to take their robots home. Yes, that means an organizational nightmare, possibly. We have to also, check and make sure that parts are coming back. We have accountability and, there's financial responsibilities. We've never had a problem with that. Not all teams to choose to go that route, but it's worked well for us. You hear air compressor in the background. So a couple years ago, we went to pneumatics, which was another game changer for our students. They have motors they use on their robots, but they also have pneumatic systems. And it just allows them to be more competitive in the matches. So you'll hear that. The game that they're playing, instead of me telling you the game that they're playing, I'd love for one of the students to explain the game to you so you can kind of hear it. I will say this, it's a new game every year. So the game changes every year. The robots change multiple times a year. They get built and rebuilt depending on what's necessary. So who wants to take the lead and explain the game?
Go for it.
All right, here's Sean.
So I'm assuming most of you have heard of Frisbee golf. So this year we have 5.5-inch discs that are made out of foam. It's basically just Frisbee golf. So there are these goals over here, and you want to shoot them at the chain to get them to go in the goals, and that's how you score the most points. There's some other scoring opportunities like rollers that you can spin to certain colors to get points. But the discs are mostly what people are focusing on.
So it's a 2-minute long game for those of you that don't know. It's 1:45 of live driving. It's 4 robots in the ring at a given time, and there is a red and a blue alliance. It's randomly chosen who will align with who in a match at a competition. So you have to have the best prepared robot as possible so that you make a good teammate, so that you guys can be as successful as possible in the game. So they have 1:45 of live driving, and then they have 15 seconds of what we call autonomous programming. That is where they program their robot to do a given task before the live driving match happens. That autonomous programming was something we weren't really aware of our first year that we competed, and we didn't know what a game changer it would be, that we would be, that sometimes determines whether you win or lose a match, depending on whether you get those 2 points in an autonomous match. And our kids have gotten really good at understanding why autonomous is important. So good that they're actually now teaching our 7th graders who just came up and are going to be competing in the middle school level this year how to do autonomous already. We're really lucky to have a feeder program. So we have kids in grades 7 through 12 that are competing on 7 different mini teams within our school. And each mini team within our school is competing between 6 and 7 tournaments this year. They'll be going once a month, starting in October, all the way through February. Regionals are in March, fingers crossed they'll go to that, and Worlds are in April. And so here in Mashpee, we are right now, juniors and senior teams are typically going to Worlds. It's an expense. It doesn't mean that if someone didn't qualify as a freshman, we wouldn't consider it, but we like to really make sure that the teams that are going have really earned their spots to Worlds, just because of the financial aspect and the financial burden even on families and stuff. But we're really fortunate that everything in Mashpee is paid for when it comes to competitions. But I will say that there's an expense. There's a real expense with VEX. You have to be on board and connected with your administration to let them know what they're getting themselves into. The Cape Cod 5 mini grant is coming up on November 11th. I can't tell you all that you should apply. Say that you're starting a VEX robotics team. That is what honestly got us started, was those little $500 mini grants that I could put towards registrations. Do that. There's VEX robotics, robot events grants that are helpful to starting your teams. Those are really important to get your team's registrations started. And then eventually, once you can prove it, then the money starts to come in. Sponsorships can happen over time. And you also can then apply to your district to get the money that you need. You should really, though, realize that most teams initially with registrations and costs for products, you're going to spend probably about $1,000 on a mini team. And when I say a mini team, like you look and see Jamie and Katrina, they're one team. Sean and Ethan have a couple of other group members who couldn't be here today. They're a second mini team. So you're looking at like $2,000 for those 2 teams for 1 year. And that's in the beginning. That's like if they're not going to like the really competitive tournaments and they're not going to regionals and worlds. So at that, would you like to see a game get played? Would you like to see some robots? All right, let's go. They're going to drive down.
We can drive them around.
They're going to drive them around. They're going to try and shoot It won't be perfect. It's only the beginning. But the fact that they have robots that can shoot frisbees at this point is really impressive. It's only October, and most tournaments don't start until November, December, January time. So they've been building all summer. They've been testing. So go for it. We'll see how it goes. You're going to see some parts that are not necessarily legal, like cardboard, if you know that, but it's in the prototype phase. You can see that it's going to be a really difficult tournament for them in order to do this. One, to shoot the frisbees, there are certain zones they can't go in. They have to stay a certain distance away. They have spinners they have to change the colors to. Right now you see Katrina's loading. She decided to take the robot apart on Friday to rebuild for our first tournament that's happening on October 30th. I swear they want to like give me a heart attack. They always decide to take it apart and rebuild it within days of a competition. And I'm always amazed that they get it back together and are able to compete. I'm trying to stay out of the camera view so you guys can see the robot. This is like there'll be 4 robots in the ring when this really happens, and they will be going around pretty fast. They're not allowed to really battle. They're not supposed to break each other's robots, but they are allowed to play defense, so there is some bumping. Every competition has referees and judges at it to make sure that rules are abided by. VEX Robotics and REC Foundation are a student-driven organization. They expect that it's students building the bots, students programming the bots, students running the games. It's very much coaches, teachers, parents. They are there to coach and mentor, but they are not standing at the ring. They are not building. It is all student driven. And there's real strong rules to suggest that. Engineering notebooks are encouraged. Every team is expected to have an engineering notebook to chronicle what they've done over the course of the year. They're interviewed at a tournament to explain their engineering notebook and their robot. Part of that is just a check and balances to make sure that you actually built the robot. You designed it, built it, tested it, and are driving it. They want to make sure that it's a fair competition. All right. I think that's good. Should we take some questions from our audience?
Absolutely. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute or utilize the chat, and I will read them to Amanda and her students. I would love to know, Amanda, if one of your students or all, just what made them get interested in robotics? What sparked their interest? I would love to know where the interest came from.
Come into the camera so they can see you.
It was something to do. It was fun. I think a lot of us grew up like building Legos and stuff. So
Cool.
started with when we were in 7th grade, they had one team going, so we were kind of able to integrate into that, which was really nice.
Awesome. Awesome.
I know for me, my brother, he's 2 years older than me, and he was on one of the first teams.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on a team starting when I was in 7th grade. We didn't compete that year, but I went and watched his, and it was so much fun to watch. So I imagine it could only be so much more fun to actually be competing. So I was pretty much in right away, beginning of 8th grade.
Cool. So we have some questions forming in the chat. Someone has asked, how did you initially start up the plan for creating the team?
So when I came here to Mashpee, there wasn't a VEX Robotics team, and it was kind of the idea was floating around, I would say, that we thought we wanted to have a team, and we had one student who had started actually building the VEX robots in my robotics class that I was teaching. And then we found out there was a competition at that time at Bristol Community College down in the Fall River area. And so we were like, okay, we'll go and we'll compete at that competition. That one student was able to kind of recruit a couple of others, and we had a team of 4 that went, and we went to that competition completely blind. We didn't even realize there was like skills that had to be done, and we were just like, it was a whole other world. And Superintendent DeBoer has even said like, wow, this is like a world in itself, this whole robotics. Every time we meet, I feel like I throw out new information about the tournament. And we were so shocked to go, but we all kind of got the bug. We like came back and the kids were so excited to compete. And then it kind of, people started talking. And then next thing you know, that team of 4 evolved into like 5 boys, including Sean's older brother, Nathan, that were really interested in competing. And we got invited to go to regionals. And we're like, how did we even get invited to regionals? At that time, it wasn't as competitive as it is now. And we went to regionals. The kids competed. They forgot half the stuff they were supposed to do. They were running all over Quinsigamond Community College in Worcester. But we knew we had like kind of found this sweet spot of student-driven competition and student-driven engineering and STEM curriculum. And it just grew. And for a while, we were like a team of 5. We weren't really an overly big team. These guys helped to grow it. So we had like our team of 4, boys, and then, Jamie, Katrina came along, Ethan, Sean, Sam, and Cam, and all of a sudden we were like close to 8. And then we made the decision to start incorporating VEX robotics at our elementary school, at our 3 through 6 building. And we were lucky enough to have a STEM teacher who was on board. And they created a VEX IQ team. And that feeder program has just, with the success of these kids, like these kids going to regionals and going to worlds and just doing so fabulous, they brought more kids in. Other kids wanted to do it. It was so cool. And then our feeder program really brought up the numbers. We're up to 28 kids now. But I can honestly say, like, completely blind, had no idea what I was getting into. And every year have learned along the way. Like, I'm still learning. I would like to say I've hit my stride in 8 years. And I said to Sam earlier, I don't think I have. I think I can see the road possibly, but I'm getting better. But I'm always learning how to do this.
Awesome. Someone else has asked, are students allowed to drop in during the day? And if so, who manages the space?
So,
Yeah. No.
No.
Because Superintendent DeBoer's not here.
Hi, Mr. Moore. We've had different schedules throughout the year. So to answer that from more of a perspective of when we had a different schedule with a block scheduling, we had a homeroom that allowed for them to come and drop in during the homeroom block to work during the day. We're fortunate enough to have a robotics class during the day that the kids are able to take. I also teach high school tech and engineering, and a lot of the curriculum overlaps. So we're really creative with the time, but our biggest support of their time has been like allowing them to take the robots home, me staying late on Tuesdays. But during the pandemic, I don't know if you're aware, we have the We Are Mashpee store, which is in the Mashpee Commons. It's our outreach store. We have our director of outreach, Consuelo Carroll, and Superintendent DeBoer can speak more openly to this. We were able to put a ring in the back storeroom of that store in Mashpee Commons. And that allowed the kids to work on the weekends, after school, at night. Now that does mean supervision on my part and supervision on our parent volunteers. We have an amazing support system of parents who also go and help supervise. But during the day here, yes, it's me supervising. I mean, I will even do stuff like if I'm staying after school, and then I'll say, you guys can stay. Or if it's a half a day and we have meetings and I'm in my classroom with the professional development, I will say to them, you can come from 1 to 3 and practice in the ring because I'm in the same room. So we're really open and creative with our schedule to support them to the best of their ability. Superintendent DeBoer, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, I agree. The setup has that ring in the adjoining room to Amanda so that she often has kids in there, and I just can't speak highly enough for the students that choose to participate in this program, because really they are very trustworthy young people who I have no worries about them being partially supervised when they're in there. They're pretty good. And I do want to just chime in about the impact of Amanda Hough. I mean, in any district that wants to do this, people do make a difference. I say that with all of the roles that we have, but particularly she has made a difference. The kids are awesome and their enthusiasm and their creativity and their dedication, but it starts with that adult who's involved with the program, and that's Amanda. So grateful for her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another question, is there a Cape Cod League?
So there is a Cape Cod League, and I can have Lisa or Landella speak to this because she is actually overseeing the Cape Cod League. But just real quickly, there's no real like Cape Cod region league within VEX Robotics. So we're the Southern New England region, and we're Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, and we can compete in tournaments within any of those 3 states, any qualifying tournaments. But there is a league that's been created by Lisa, and I will have Lisa talk to you about it. I think Lisa and I are both on the same page when we would love to see more robotics teams competitive here on Cape Cod to make this region really great. It's a lot to drive to Hopkinton and Framingham and North Andover and Worcester every month. You know, they're putting their heads down because they have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do that. If we could have so many teams here that would be competitive, that would it would be awesome. We would love to see it. Lisa, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? First of all, thank you so much for even mentioning my name, because I'm like here and Mashpee's up here. But we were thrilled to even be able, with the help of Bridget Berger from the Cape Cod STEM Network and Cape Cod Community College, to be able to pull off last year's league. So yes, we had a 4-day league last January that met after school. I believe it started from 3:30 and went to about 5:30. Again, there was a Tuesday, Thursday, and it was a qualifying league. And Bridget Berger kind of allowed it to be like a newbie league. So Andrew, did you participate in there? I thought so. Yeah, I recognize you. So that was us just getting our feet wet, and we were lucky enough to have some success and sent 2 teams to the Southern New England regionals, where, wow, that was mind-blowing and educational, because we didn't have I have Jackson Down here who's president of our club, and we didn't have pneumatics. We had autonomous, but we didn't have a lot. So do you want to say hi? So no, so we are brand new. Mashpee is definitely our mentor program. Amanda was nice enough to have us 2019 pre-COVID for our VEX Robotics STEM training. And then we lost some traction. We're trying to get back at it. But again, I am not one to be answering questions. I email Amanda all the time and Bridget Berger all the time. And we are planning on doing a league again, hopefully this January. But yeah, so that's our hope, and that's our goal. So thanks, Amanda.
No, it's great to have a league. You know, it's hard to start out competing as 32 teams off Cape. You know, we kind of dove in, head first, and just we took it as it came. That's not everybody. You know, it makes it a little difficult. But I will say that we have a tournament coming up on the 30th of this month in Mashpee. We have another one on the end of January. We would love to see Cape Cod teams at it. Both of those are qualifying events for the Southern New England Championships that are in Framingham in March. But we're working with the Mass Higher Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board and SAM to host the Cape Cod Mini Maker Fair here in March. And we've already planned to have a tournament that day. Now, it won't qualify students to go to Southern New England regionals because it's after the event. But my hope was that it could just be kind of an opportunity for Cape Cod teams to come together and, really compete and learn from each other and have fun. I mean, I hope our kids will be practicing for Worlds, fingers crossed, but I would really love to see everyone come and participate at that and just have fun and get the bug. Like, going to regionals is eye-opening. It's scary. You're going, I don't have any of that, but it's no better way to motivate kids than to have them compete at a higher level.
Great. We have some awesome questions coming in. So another one, do your students do online challenges as well?
I know our team did one in.
Lookers and students riding buses 4, 5, 6, and 10 may be dismissed. All walkers and students riding buses 4, 5, 6, and 10 may now be dismissed.
So I know our team did one online challenge. I think it was
Last
sophomore year. And then we didn't do any junior year because I think I had too much homework and I didn't want to do it. But I think we might do some again. I don't know. I mean, it depends what it is. Yeah, it really depends on how much we can feasibly get done.
Yeah. Online challenges are great. They're a little time consuming. It depends on which one you pick. Like if you pick an online challenge that says you're chronicling, you know, with video, how you do your robot and build it and you tie it to engineering notebook, it might not be too much extra work. But one of the ones you guys did was all about electronic components, right? In learning circuits.
We took apart my old Kindle and had to edit parts, which ended up being a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. But I know there's one this year where you design a part that you would want on your robot, and so that seems pretty easy. So probably that one.
Designing a part on your robot with CAD is something that would be beneficial to all teams, but we're really fortunate that we have Sal Nicella across the way, who's our drafting teacher, and he's given these kids a wealth of knowledge when it comes to CAD. But that is something like that would be beneficial. Many of the teams qualify for worlds or regional, well, worlds based on online challenges, but they're really time consuming. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. We haven't gone that route because they've been so all in on building robots and programming.
Perfect. Do the robots have to be VEX IQ or V5, or can older VEX equipment be used?
V5.
So VEX IQ is for younger kids, and that it has its own competitions and its own game every year. 5th and 6th graders do VEX IQ competitions, and they're more like of a plastic Lego based kind of robot. V5 is what's done for our high school 7 through 12. It's all metal. It's what Jamie's pointing to. It's what you see here. So it's V5.
What might be the best route to build up supplies and materials for robotics?
Grant funding for one thing, definitely grants. If you can start teaching a robotics class in your school, then we have shared parts between the team and the class for like curriculum. That's been really beneficial for building up parts. Sponsorship. So we have gone out and we've gotten sponsorships from local companies and asked them to sponsor our robotics team. If you are really, really motivated and you're really excited, you can run a competition. So running a competition allows you to take in registration fees and money. And you charge each team that comes like between $80 and $100 to come. 32 teams usually attend a competition. So you can really benefit. You can make a couple thousand on a competition that you can put back into your program and pay for parts. And VEX gives you discounts on buying the parts of the rings. VEX is a really great community where people will share. If you have game elements and you have rings, and I think this is something that Kate should talk about doing, is we should share parts too. Like if I have a ring and you have a ring and you want to run a tournament and I want to run a tournament, why are we all buying 4 different rings? Like you buy a ring, I buy a ring, and we share, and we can all start to make some money moving forward for our teams and really build the program up.
Great. So there's another chat. It's more of a comment, but Andrew mentioned V5. Lisa might remember that we at Falmouth showed up last year with a robot using last generation electronics, which are no longer competition legal. So worth bearing in mind that older stuff is not necessarily usable for competition.
Right.
Thank you for sharing, Andrew.
Yeah, jump in at any time if I'm saying something that's false. Same thing with the kids. So they kind of grandfathered in the older ones for a couple of years, but VEX is also money making, right? And they want everyone to buy the new parts, to move forward with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's a really big disadvantage to be using the older stuff.
Yeah.
So
Did you guys hear Katrina on that?
It became a pretty big disadvantage, to the point where like younger teams who had the newer stuff were doing a lot better than older teams that just couldn't afford it. So, I don't know why they changed.
Also, when you say that students can bring robots home, how do you manage the smaller materials?
So there is some built-in loss, to be honest, you know, like screws, nuts, washers, like there is some built-in loss and we do have to buy it. We've also had though, like families who have bought some parts themselves to kind of replace some parts for their kids. We did do a parts list, so they had to like, you know, be responsible for each part that they brought home. But as Superintendent DeBoer said, like, you're talking about really great, really responsible kids and parents that are really bought into their kids having this opportunity. And don't be afraid, you know, I've sent emails home to parents saying like, your child is getting this opportunity to bring this robotic stuff home. It's like bringing a textbook home. And I've said that it's equivalent to $500 worth of, you know, parts. And if they don't come back, we will have to hold you responsible. And we've asked parents and students to sign it. And nobody is balked, but nobody's forced to bring them home either. Like I've said to students, like, you shouldn't take responsibility for the robot, you and your parents, and then hand it off to a teammate who hasn't signed the contract with their parents, like to be responsible for it. Like you should only take responsibility for you and what you can handle. And I've made that quite clear to the students so that people are not going into something blind. I would never want parents to feel like they didn't know what they were getting themselves into.
We had some more people join the event, so we're just doing a Q&A with Amanda and her robotics team right now. Feel free to unmute and ask some questions, or you can put some questions in the chat. I was wondering if the students could talk about their time commitment. So they mentioned how online challenges are difficult because of how much time it takes up being a part of the team. Can you talk about maybe your daily time commitment while you're in school and what it looks like out of school?
Yeah, so I could start. So I'm lucky enough to have 2 classes during my day where I have time down here. Most days I can be working on my robot. Sometimes I have other little stuff to work on to help us out or something. But I have 2 classes down here. A lot of that time is usually spent practicing driving, figuring something out. Just before a lot of people signed on, I had a piece of my robot torn apart, fixing it to try to make it work for this. But I think for most of the building for my team and Katrina and Jamie's team happens at our house, like Miss Hough was talking about. Just so, because my dad is a mentor of our team. He's an electrical engineer down at Woods Hole. So my family is very invested in its certain parts of the year. It's the major focus of my life. But we get a lot of work done at home, and sometimes Ethan comes over to my house for an evening. We get a lot of work done. Sometimes the other teammates come over too. And it's great, and it's just really nice having that opportunity to have them at home, because we're way more productive and we don't have to worry about. So like when we're here, we can focus on helping the younger students, and we don't have to be all mixed up while we're trying to get work done. And that's very beneficial for them, I would say, right?
Yeah, this year we enlisted like the 2 hours from 3 to 5 o'clock for the whole team, but there's 28 kids in these 2 rooms, all building 8 different robots with all sets of different questions. And so when you're competing at the world level, like they need the time to really concentrate and troubleshoot and change things. They're building at a level that our 7th and 8th graders aren't. So like Sean said, that time at home is huge, but I will say I required them to start coming in on Tuesdays from 3 to 5 and mentoring our younger kids. And we have never had our younger teams have robots in such great places that they are today. Like their robots are further advanced, they're programming, they're asking questions. Like it has hugely paid off to be like all hands on deck on a Tuesday. Like, doesn't mean they necessarily get to build, but they're also practicing. Like, they're thinking about programming, they're thinking about building, they're thinking about strategizing in the game. And they may not think they're really working on their robots and their skills, but hidden underneath there, we all know as teachers, they're actually practicing quite a bit of skills. How much time though, like average weekly, like do you say you guys put in?
Okay, so taking this year out of it because college applications, I think I wrote on the Common App 45 to 50 weeks a year, anywhere between 8 and like 12 hours a week. I think last year we did 130 hours of just straight
Wow.
for every hour there's 3 or 4 preparation. So math on that, I don't really want to do, but quite a lot.
Well, you can I appreciate you both sharing that information. You can certainly see the passion that you guys have for it. So it's not work. It seems like it's not work. It's more of a hobby. It's a passion. You have interest in it. So I applaud all of you. We have some more chats questions. So how do you ensure all students are aware of the manual, rules, and point system for competition?
We have a Google Classroom. A lot of it is like word of mouth by these guys. By no means have I memorized the manual, the game manual, the rules, or the regulations. I just couldn't. None of you can. Like, and it's also not your responsibility to. Like, you do have to teach them and show them, but it's student driven. Remember that. Like, it is student driven. They have to understand it. They have to be able to abide by it. Because when they're in a match, if they don't play the rules, if they don't follow the rules and they get something wrong, you're not going up and arguing for them. They have to respectfully say they disagree and something went wrong. I mean, I've been the coach who kind of like walked up at the beginning stages and they're like, no, you can't talk to me. So it's really important for them to understand it. Yes, you do have to teach them and make them aware of it. We utilize Google Classroom. I put tutorial videos on there. I upload all the manuals up there, the game strategies. They talk and mentor each other. The best way to learn is to scrimmage in your school if you can with each other. And they'll learn the rules real fast if they go to a competition. They seem to pick them up really quickly after the first competition that they go to. They get called out, 1 or 2 times. They won't make that mistake again. Jamie has had the counts, right, for driving.
Yeah, I'm a very offensive driver, like that. Hit people. It's legal. Mostly. But there have been a few close calls on that and actual calls. There's also like a drive team certification thing on Google. Probably, I think it's Google form, and you have to sit there with the manual and like actually reference it, which I tried to do it from memory and it didn't work, so I have to do it again and actually read the manual this time. So
posted the drive team certification on our Google Classroom so the kids could do it prior to the tournament. So Robot Events has all that, and Jamie talks about they do count to 10. So when they're driving, they'll be like 1, 2, 3, and like our mentor, Sean's dad, John Ware, years ago told Jamie, like, I don't want you to let up until a count of 8. Like, you got to get all the way to 8, and when they get to 8, then you can back away. And she was young at the time, and it was like, I'm not doing that, but she did it, and she's quite the tiger. Many of our teachers here would say she's kind of shy and quiet and can't believe what they see when she starts driving around the ring.
How much material do you have for 28 students? So how many robot brains, motors, hardware enough for a group?
We have 8 teams. So you're really looking at 8 sets of materials for robots. That's obviously, we have like, I think 4 extra brains right now. We probably have like 8 to 10 extra motors. I mean, each robot can have 8 motors on it. So do the math, you're looking at 8 times 8, 64 motors, and we're always adding. We share a lot, but pneumatics is kind of held off to our older students. We don't like 7th graders, 8th graders, freshmen, they're not doing pneumatics. It's the programming required for that is just beyond them. So they, the parts get more intense the older they get, and not everyone's using everything at the beginning. Metal, we try to like not let everyone just cut it a whim, cut aluminum. We try to make sure that they're looking in the scrap metal drawer and finding pieces before they just start cutting. But it's a lot. Yeah, and we're replacing them every single year. I mean, I think, to be honest, I've probably already put in 2 or 3 orders, and they were upwards of like $1,000 for parts. Batteries cannot be found right now. So I know if anyone says to me, where are you getting your VEX batteries from? I'm not getting them. I'm in the same boat as you. And they're a coveted item. So we are just really being careful with our batteries because you can't get them. They're out of stock on VEX.
Any other questions?
I will say this, you all know that when you're building a VEX robot for competition, it's only VEX parts that are allowed, unless they are, you can find them like through RoboSource, but you do have to make sure that your students understand inspections prior to competition. You talk about resources, but in the inspection sheet, understanding what's allowed, understanding the size requirements, understanding this game this year has size requirements that previous games didn't have, and there's expansion rules. That is, like, you talk about how do you teach your kids that is so important. Giving them the inspection sheet ahead of time, giving them the rules and saying, do you understand the size requirements? Do you understand the expansion rule? You know, because they can have a robot built, go all the way to competition, and that robot has to be inspected before they compete. If they have parts that are not VEX parts, they can tell them at a tournament, after you've maybe spent the money, $100 to register them, they're not competing today. So those are things you want to make sure that as the coach and the teacher, you're making sure you're putting them in the best possible position come time for competition. What am I forgetting, guys? You all know this way better than I do. I think that's about it.
Amanda, can I ask you a question directly? If you have so many brains and you have so many kids that want to compete, is there a sweet spot where you want to make the team big enough, but not, you know, too big? Is there like a sweet spot for a number for a team?
Yeah, they'll probably tell you what they feel their sweet spot is for playing, because they're used to. So Jamie and Katrina say 2, but from a teaching perspective and a financial perspective, that is like, that's just 14 teams. That's crazy. So 2 is not my sweet spot. What do you think yours is?
From what I've seen, I think anywhere from 4 to 6, really. Probably 5 is a good, 4 or 5, really. Okay, I'm changing it. 4 to 5 is what I would recommend, because we've met a lot of teams that have upwards of 8 students on a team, and you just don't quite get as much out of it, because you can only have so many people working, per se, like working on a robot at once. You can't have 8 people trying to change something all at once. I will say having maybe a couple more than 2 people is good, just because then you can kind of spread out different aspects of the workload a little bit. As some of you might know, there's a couple different jobs, like, or things that people, different things people can do. So that definitely helps. Somewhere in that range, probably.
I think 4 to 5. 4 to 5 committed students.
Yeah.
So, right, like the sweet spot all depends on how committed the students are. There's many teams down in Connecticut that are highly successful, and they have 8 to 10 kids on their team. And their coach has told me, well, they play sports. They're like a 3-sport kid, and they're on the robotics team, and I only see them during the month of January, and they're happy with that. Like, and they have their core group of kids. We here in Mashpee, I think, have run at a smaller scale, and I like that. I really feel like 3 to 4 is the sweet spot, in my opinion. You need a really good driver who can spend a lot of time in practice. You need a good builder who has an assistant builder who knows how to fix things when the time comes. Engineering notebook and programming. You really get bigger than that. You get like 5 or 6, and kids get bored, or they actually kind of annoy each other, because one kid will build something and somebody else will take it apart and like the next day. And that communication component is so important. They're like, I just built that all yesterday, Mrs. Howe. Why did I come in and it's gone? Oh, well, did you talk to your team? So I really feel like More important than the number of kids is the amount of time they have together to communicate and work on that. That is what we're working on. Like, are you communicating to your team that you want to take the whole robot apart today? Because how's everyone going to feel tomorrow when they come in expecting to see it built? Okay, bye, honey.
Any further questions?
I would recommend that you all reach out to Ryan Utzman from the REC Foundation and Dan Troy. Those are our two regional partners for VEX Robotics Robot Events, Dan Troy and Ryan Utzman, and I can help you if you need to get in touch with them. VEX made a change for registrations this year. You pay $500, and I think you can register up to like 8 teams. So it's a little more doable than what it's been in the past. Obviously, that's in addition to what you pay for competitions. If I was starting out, I would try to go to 2 competitions. I try to go to one in January and I try to go to one in February, just so that your kids can go to one competition in January, understand that they're not going to do well and don't really know what's going on, but hope they're going to get the bug and then say, hey, that was just the first one. We tried it. It was tough, but you're so excited. And guess what? We're going back again in February. So you can kind of get that momentum and keep the ball rolling. But I wouldn't do more than 2 in your first year and drive yourself crazy.
All right. Well, looks like the chat has slowed down. We're starting to get some positive feedback from today's session. I do want to share that tomorrow, Amanda's hosting a robotics team open house at Mashpee-Middle High School. It is from 3 to 5 p.m. in room A131. So that is available for tomorrow. Anybody who has any further questions or you'd want to share it with your colleagues or your networks who couldn't join today's call. It is recorded, so we'll be sure to share it with all of you to use as a resource to share. We'd like to thank everybody for joining today. I appreciate everybody's question and time. And thank you to Amanda's students for doing such amazing work. And Amanda, thank you for spearheading this event.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Please come into the Mashpee-Middle High School main office and ask for the robotics room. Bring students, come, the more the merrier. You know, we would love to see you guys in person and help you grow your programs. Thank you all for joining.